This is Envision Self-Healing Podcast, episode number 52. Hi, I'm Will Fuller.
And I'm Richard Miller.
And we are the co-creators of EnvisionSelfHealing.com and are dedicated in helping you improve your eyesight and quality of life
by taking healing into your own hands.
Now, if you haven't done already, head over to the EnvisionSelfHealing.com website and get your hands on a free ebook that gives you 10 top tips on how you can start improving your eyesight in today's modern world.
So this week the topic is your food killing you? And in the question of the week, we answer a question from YouTube from a graphic artist who spends all day on the computer and is doing the convergence eye exercises and is wondering if this is making his vision worse, not better.
So, Richard, how's the world of self-healing been treating you this week?
Well, as I said, I promised not to talk about my back, and it was 95% better.
Okay.
And right after the podcast, the next day, I was, and this is, believe me, this is still at least interesting. It's not just my back again. So I was I was on the floor thinking, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm almost back to normal. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the floor with tennis balls going after some tight muscles in my right cheek, basically. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is like the last residual of my back problem, which I got from starting a spin class, which I did in order to improve blood circulation for my optic atrophy, to sort of backtrack from all of that. So I'm on this program of trying to increase my aerobic health as a way of treating my optic atrophy. So anyway, I'm on the floor with this tennis ball feeling pretty good. And then I started to visualize. I have this project in my backyard, which is, again, 95% finished, my house and my yard. And I thought, wow, I can now go and put in the rest of this. I have this rubber tile outside my office, and I can finally finish that project. And maybe if I go and I needed some weed fabric. I thought, if I go get the weed fabric today, I could come home, I can put the tile in, and I'm starting to visualize this whole process of me finishing out the tile. Mm-hmm. And as I'm doing this, I'm getting up off the floor, and my back seizes up.
Wow.
I swear it was the visualization of, because we did this tile together last time, so it was the visualization of picking up the tile and putting it in place is not easy on your back, shall we say.
No.
So I swear it was the mind-body connection that got me. It was like my back just maybe realized that, well, if I do this to him, I won't have to do that tile or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's saving you from an evil, more serious condition that
maybe
you might have got from actually lifting those tiles.
Right. So I got a duplicate strain on the other side of my body. So, but it's going away rather quickly this time. Within a week, I'm to the point where I was maybe 3 or 4 weeks into the other injury. And it does remind me, we hit this all the time with clients, you reckon, the relapse, essentially. Mm-hmm. When people push themselves too far, it's a very common occurrence.
Mm-hmm. And then the trick is to try and get back on board again.
Right. It's very discouraging for clients we've seen. They just think, I've just spent, and sometimes people have spent, 6 months to a year making progress. Mm-hmm. And they just do one thing that was just too much for them at that moment. And boom, they really step back, and it's always hard to look at.
Yeah, and I think it's good to. I always remember when I first started training for half marathons, and I think I picked up a bit of an injury, and I didn't train for a couple of months. And one of the guys that I work with, who was actually a marathon runner and also triathlon, he does Ironmans, all that kind of fun stuff, and. He said, well, you've still got that muscle memory there. You've still got that fitness. You've still worked yourself to that point, and that it doesn't necessarily completely go just because you take that bit of time off.
Okay.
So you're still better off. It's not that you've completely reverted back to where you first started, because you've still developed. You've still, in your case, you've still improved your blood flow.
Right.
You've still loosened up other surrounding muscles and indeed that muscle. But certainly it can feel like we're at exactly the same
Right.
places where we started.
Well, and actually, now that you say that, during the 5 or 6 weeks I've been dealing with this, I've still been going to the gym and lifting weights in the proper posture with my trainer watching me at all times to make sure I'm in proper alignment. So maybe that I was still building core strength through that period. So maybe that's why this is. I was trying to figure out why this is a quicker heal than the previous one. Maybe that's it, that I had actually developed more strength and better posture. So
and also what's kind of nice with that is it's really one particular thing. I think when the injuries keep moving from place to place to place, at least you can sort of zero in on your butt. And your back.
I hope people zero in on my butt. But
I'm not saying anything with that comment. So my week went very well this week. I noticed over the last few days some opening in the left-hand side of my periphery, which I was very excited about. And it's very difficult to try and explain this because I guess somebody unfamiliar with this might think that it's kind of like all of a sudden a window of clear vision comes through, like say you've got a foggy window and you sort of wipe your hand around it and all of a sudden you can see through it. It's really not like that. It's more over the last I guess month, those that have been following the podcast would know I've been doing a lot of obstructing of the left eye, and I reported then that I felt my left eye was a bit more awake.
Right.
And that I had more of a sense there in that left eye. And then the last few days, from what I feel is a combination of the new yoga that I've been taking up this last week, some more blood flow. I've been doing my juicing nice and regularly, and I've been getting plenty of sleep and eating really well. So I think a combination of all of that and being able to do my exercises every morning this week, that I started to notice a bit more of an opening, shall we say, in the left-hand side of my periphery, where before it's kind of just a foggy image, shall we say, or I just had an awareness there. This time I was able to kind of identify the object and what that was. So it's not necessarily seeing it as clearly as people might be assuming, but it's certainly an improvement. And in particular, I noticed that walking through door frames was different because now I had a sense of both vertical bits of wood there at the side of the door as it was going up. And I noticed that I didn't quite know what to do with that information on my left-hand side. And I almost had to adjust my posture and how I walked through the door. Because normally either I'm using my central vision
scan around
to evaluate, or I'm just using my right periphery, gauging where my right shoulder should be on that right door frame, and then walking through.
Well, and that might actually, that habit of always using your right could, as you know, sort of atrophy your experience on the left,
Yeah, well, I also felt as I was walking down the street straight afterwards that I had this sense of trees and lampposts and everything moving down the left-hand side. And I was adjusting my posture, and I was also walking a little bit uneasy. It was almost like there was kind of an unknown there down on the left-hand side and receiving information that I wasn't used to seeing.
Yeah, almost like there's a car coming from that direction or something.
So my brain didn't really quite know what to do with it. So I stayed firm and tried to keep my posture. I kind of felt that I was also kind of leaning in with my right shoulder and in my right eye as I walked, and I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That I would sort of be bracing myself in that situation. So anyway, this was only a couple of days ago, so I'm looking forward to playing with that a little bit more throughout this week and discovering it a bit. But really, really pleased about that. And then I guess the only other thing is me being me, taking up yoga this last week, which has been going well. I've been trying hard to not push myself too much and take it easy, because we know plenty of people that start yoga and then pick up injuries.
I did that many years ago. Definitely.
Trying to push ourselves too much,
Yep.
which I nearly did yesterday, and going to try and avoid that in the future. But they're doing a 30-day yoga challenge.
Okay.
Where you do yoga for 30 days straight.
All right. Yeah. You don't have to do a down dog with a 300-pound man on your back or something like that
for 30 days straight. Yeah, that would be difficult. So today's the last day to sign up. So I think I'm going to go for it.
All right.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Well, wait a minute. You have to go to this place for 30 days?
Yeah.
You have to. That's how they prove that you do it. Very good. Very good.
So on the plus side, I get a free T-shirt.
All right.
It's not even free. I have to pay $15 for it, but I do get a T-shirt. And not that I need one. So I think I'm going to give that a good shot. And
30 days. All right.
And I said I would take it easy and not push myself too much.
Yeah, right. Only yoga every day.
So anyway, we'll see. I'm sure I won't be doing it anytime soon.
Well, you can always just show up and do the corpse pose every day, right? Just lay there.
Yeah.
That will be pushing it.
They do say that you can go at your own pace. So
just do the corpse pose all the time.
Or maybe I could just sit in the reception area.
No, I think you have to do some yoga. But I think the corpse pose has got to be the easiest.
Yeah. Maybe I could just go there and do my eye exercises in the corner. Just be waving my hands to the side there. I'm sure everyone would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I think it's a good time to move on to topic of the week.
And the topic of the week this week is your food killing you?
So now this came last week. Do you want to fill our audience in a little bit more about what happened last week?
So last week on our podcast, we were commenting on the news story about horse meat being found in Britain's fast food, I suppose, and some of Europe too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but mainly it was in Taco Bell's in Britain and IKEA's in Britain too, right?
Yeah, and sort of microwavable meals.
Right. So we were commenting then about how do we really know what's in our meat? Mm-hmm. And then I guess what happens to us a lot is once we get into one topic, it sort of blossoms into something else.
Yeah. I guess also the news, which is nice because you don't really tend to see this in the States, but that they've now picked up on this whole meat issue.
Oh, okay.
That maybe meat isn't as good for us as what is. I was going to say being forced down our throats. That we have all these guidelines and such that you should eat X amount of meat every day. And I guess part of the point of last week is that maybe the quality of it isn't as good as what we think it is.
Right, and we were encouraged people to do organic meats and eat less of it.
So now this week on the BBC, and if you want to check out this article, then you could head over to our Facebook fan page. And indeed, the last week's previous articles about the IKEA meatballs and the horse meat. And then you could also find that. Just look for Envision Self-Healing in Facebook and you'll find our page there. So this article is entitled Processed Meat Early Death Link. So basically they've done a study, and I'll read a little bit out here. It says sausages, ham, bacon and other processed meats appear to increase the risk of dying young, a study of 500,000 people across Europe suggests. It concluded diets high in processed meats were linked to cardiovascular diseases, cancer and early deaths. The researchers writing on the Journal of BMC Medicine said salt and chemicals used to preserve the meat may damage health. So I guess this kind of ties in a little bit with what we were talking about of how do we know what's in our food?
Right. And the classic example are hot dogs or what do you call them in England then?
Sausages.
There we go.
But we still have had this debate for a while. I guess if we put a sausage in a bun,
oh gosh, that's
it's a hot dog.
It's a hot dog.
But not wiener dogs. Would then that's a hot dog?
A wiener dog is actually a dog.
Right.
A wiener is a
whatever. So it's not just horse meat. We've also got dog meat as well.
Well, right. Yeah.
Maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah.
We don't want to go down that road.
No.
So just this idea then of the fact that people were eating horse meat and they had no idea of it, and then to top it all off, they said that that this is meat that is over 1% horse meat. So it means that anything under 1% isn't being reported.
Right.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
and we're not necessarily saying that horse meat is bad. I've not eaten it myself, but it's the point that we don't necessarily know what's there. So now, luckily, the medical journals and research is finally coming through, because if you think about it, all these chemicals and all this processed food, it's not really been around that long.
No, maybe 50 years or so. Yeah.
So now, this research, I'm not too sure when it started, but 500,000 people.
Yeah.
I've been a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Studying this over a length of time. So finding that things like chemicals that they're putting in food in order for it to be preserved is could also be, linking to cancer and early death and cardiovascular disease.
Right. No, it ties in very well. Well, and the reason I brought up the hot dog thing is that's a classic thing for someone to say, pick up the hot dog and say, what the heck's in this thing? Because we don't really know what's in hot dogs. So, anyway, so yeah, the processed foods. Oh, and then while you're picking up this week that article from the BBC, I simultaneously, we weren't talking to each other about this, was listening to a radio show yesterday morning in the local public radio station, and they were going through some research done by what's called the Buck Institute out here in Marin County, north of San Francisco. This woman, Marion Buck, left tons of money to this county, even though it's a very wealthy county, and they've done really creative stuff with the money she left to them. Anyway, this Buck Institute is doing all this research on longevity, and they just finished some research with fruit flies, fruit flies have a very short lifespan, so they can feed them something, see how long they lived, and the research happens very quickly. Anyway, they were feeding these fruit flies one diet of higher protein diet and one diet with lower protein diet. And it was very obvious that the fruit flies that ate the lower protein diet lived longer. So they're really starting to, and they're expanding this into primate studies and things like that. But they're very certain already that lower protein diets, they even said, this was sort of fascinating too, it was like by eating less even, your body goes into a semi-hibernation kind of mode. And that might actually extend it, kind of like you're a bear hibernating. Your body just slows down its aging process. I thought that was fascinating too. But this so ties in with the Gerson training I did about cancer and how the less protein we eat, the less prone we are to cancer.
I think they did say in this study that the English government originally recommends 70 grams of protein a day, which sounds like isn't that much, only maybe like 2 sausages and a bit of bacon. What this study is recommending is 20.
Wow, good.
20 grams of protein. But that's protein, and what they're suggesting at the end of the article, those of you that head over to the fan page and read it, is at the end that try and get protein from different sources, not just from red meat, which is also, can be high for cholesterol, high in saturated fat, but also, get it from things like lentils, quinoa, whatever it is.
Quinoa. Yeah.
It's different people pronounce it differently. And beans and things like that. So it's amazing because that's nice that they're actually acknowledging that you can get protein from other sources. It seems so funny because people like Gerson have been saying this for 90 years. Right. And I just find it very interesting that within the last month or so, they're really starting to pick it up. And maybe it's more that the media is picking it up, maybe just because this is good news. I don't know. Yeah. But it certainly is coming more into the mainstream media, and it's starting to become more acknowledged now that, animals that are being treated with drugs and food that is then got chemicals to preserve it and things like that. I remember when I was living in Kenya, and you would see them selling the meat in the windows, right? And it's sort of just hanging there and some sort of some flies and stuff. And I thought, being from the
it's not
the
in a
West,
little package.
I am, it's not covered. And I thought, well, that's a little bit. And I mentioned to my Kenyan friend, and he said, well, this is this is all fresh. Like, this is daily
Okay.
meat. He's like, and you can tell the difference in the color. If you come
right.
back tomorrow, you'll notice which meat is fresh from that day.
Right.
If you think about how old the meat is that we eat by the time we get it in the
Right.
store, it's kind of scary, the idea of it just sitting there.
Well, they do use
Putrefied.
dyes too to keep it red too. So,
Yeah, I heard that. I think there was a supermarket that they found that the juice that they were putting in with the meat was dyed colored liquid. It wasn't blood at all.
Oh, right. And this reminds me too of another story I heard about fake steaks, essentially, where they're taking meat remains from the butchering process that they wouldn't use normally, or lesser quality, and they're gluing them together with pig's blood and creating a very nice looking fake steak. So you really don't know that nice packaging.
And you were saying that they even showed it with top chefs.
Yes, they took a chef and put a real steak and this fake steak, and
Frankenstein steak.
and the chef couldn't tell the difference in looking at them. So yeah.
So I guess this sort of just fits in nicely. Really, it links in with last week, that we're sort of urging people to try and think a little bit more organic, think a little bit more local. You can actually talk to your farmers or your supplier and find out what are the animals being treated with any sort of chemicals, or how old is the meat when you're getting it.
Right.
I mean, we're very lucky in here in San Francisco. We've got plenty of farmers market, and they kind of bring their little cooler box.
Exactly,
that has some meat, and you can ask them directly, what are they fed on? Do they treat them with anything?
Right.
And that's so fresh, they don't need to preserve it with anything. So what we were recommended last week, which is kind of what this article is pointing to, is that instead of, people say they can't afford the more expensive meat. So what we're suggesting is to not completely cut out meat out of your diet, but limit it, and what you do spend your money on, make sure it is the nicer meat that you're spending it on.
Yeah. So just get away from some of that processing. So, including the hot dogs. Although we both love our hot dogs, don't we? Yeah.
Well, and it does say in the article that sort of meat that hasn't been processed is
well, and there are organic hot dogs out there. Now I think about it, for the Super Bowl, I served organic hot dogs. So.
That's why the 49ers lost the World
That's
Series.
True. Oh my God, it was all my hot dog problem. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I think it's a good time to move on to question of the week.
And the question of the week this week comes from YouTube, and it's someone who's trying out our conversion eye exercises. They are working as a graphic artist on a computer. Nobody does it without a computer anymore. And I used to be in this profession, so I understand where he's coming from. And he's working on the computer all day long, and was having convergence issues already before he started doing the exercise. And then he started doing the convergence exercise, and it created even more strain. So
he was kind of wondering, I guess, what should he do?
What should he do? Yeah, he thinks he's doing the right thing. My guess is he just saw the video on YouTube and hasn't fully looked into the website, is my guess. Because if he went through I guess the simple answer would be go to our website, go through the presbyopia program, and that would take care of his convergence issues.
Yeah, so I'm assuming then he was doing it for presbyopia and not to try and strengthen. I don't know whether, thinking about it now, that he noticed that after an extended period of time, he was losing the ability to focus. So he was doing the convergence exercises in the theory, and it's a good theory, that it would strengthen
the convergence muscle.
Yeah, his ability to converge. So I guess a simple answer is that it's because he's overusing those muscles. He's straining those convergence muscles.
Right.
Straining his eyes, bringing fatigue there, computer vision syndrome.
Yeah.
And then trying to work it even more in order to strengthen it.
Right. And all of our programs have, on the website, all of our programs everywhere, have palming they all have palming, which is a basic relaxation exercise. And what he's doing here is taking only the strengthening part of the programs and ignoring the relaxation part. In reality, maybe he never saw any of our programs. As I say, he just saw the video. So, you can't just work those muscles. It's sort of the sort of John Wayne approach to eye exercises. You have to incorporate the relaxation and the balancing and things like that.
Yeah, I guess it would be the same as, let's say somebody is holding, their job is to hold a weight all day. It's a horrible job. I'm sure someone has to do it. If that is your job, no offense, I'm sure it's great. So you imagine that you hold a weight all day for 12, 15 hours.
Right.
And then to rest that, you start doing
bicep curls. Oh, that's so annoying, isn't it?
Then obviously, you can kind of see how that...
Well, there's some logic to that. You go, wow, I need to be stronger in my bicep to do my job. And you're just doing this and you're ignoring, maybe I need to relax the arm. Yeah.
So I guess that the problem isn't necessarily that it's weak. I mean, over time, it does get weaker, but more through that use of just overuse and not strengthening. But really what you want to be doing is preventing that strain in the first place.
Right.
And allow the muscle to maintain its own strength, and then outside visual fatigue, do the convergence exercise to strengthen the muscles so that you can work. But when we recommend computer use, we talk about taking regular breaks so that you never allow it to get to that point of fatigue in the first place. So certainly what we would be recommending, just like what Richard said there, would be some more palming.
Right.
Some distance looking, bit of sunning.
The good thing about distance looking, if he's training his eyes in all day long, distance looking, they're going to be out.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and in fact, somebody made a comment on our convergence video this week or last week. Can you do divergence?
Right.
And I'm really glad they made that call. We don't really
talk about that much
as much, and I'm sure we'll get round to that a bit more in the future.
Yeah.
But divergence is looking out. It's kind of the opposite of looking in. So maybe you could take those presbyopia charts that you can get on our website at envisionselfhealing.com and just start doing divergence instead of convergence. But distance looking is pretty much...
And he's working on the computer close anyway, so it solves many issues by doing the distance looking.
So this individual is certainly right to think that they need to strengthen those muscles there. Long hours at the computer, I mean, anything in our modern day life, we talk more about this obviously in the ebook, is that we're fatiguing those muscles from that use. So good instincts there to want to strengthen it, but it's just the context that you do it in, and you want to make sure that your eyes are fully rested when you do it. And I'm glad this person contacted us because they were feeling strain when they were doing it. And there's nothing worse than people kind of just push through that.
Right.
They don't ask the questions. That's why we set up the coaching course, so people can ask these sort of questions to us. Instead of just pushing through and hoping that you come out the other side, is to be aware of why you're feeling any sort of strain or tension. It's the same with all exercises. If it's not feeling as good as it should be, then think about what it is that you're doing in the situation that you're doing it in.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me want to jump in there and take on the case and try and figure it out. Because I was just thinking, if he did some eye rotations too, then he's using all the muscles, balancing that out a little more. As you said, doing divergence. There's a lot of possibilities, but it would almost take working with him and seeing what his job situation is. Yeah. But which we can't completely do, obviously.
We'll try.
We'll try.
One day they'll invent.
Some virtual with jump through his computer screen. Don't do that.
Okay, great. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you want to find out a little bit more information on eye exercises and indeed vision improvement in general, then head over to our website at envisionselfhealing.com. You'll find plenty of eye exercise programs there and exercises to get more information. You can also check out more of our blogs or podcasts by heading to the blog section there on our website, or indeed if you're listening to this on iTunes, then you could click the subscribe button, or if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can subscribe to us there. You could also show us a little bit of love by clicking like on any of our material that you see here.
It's like, not love.
You can show us some love.
Oh, okay, all right. All right.
It's two similar words there.
Yeah, right.
Conflicting.
Yeah.
Or you could show us some like by giving us.
There you
go.
That's
probably not. That's not the right way around. And you can also follow both Richard and I on Twitter. We regularly update ourselves there. Just look us up on our website and you'll see the address. And don't forget, as always, the free ebook, A Modern Day Guide for Improving Eyesight, where you can just head over to the website and you'll see exactly how you can get your hands on that book. So good luck with your eye exercises this week, and happy healing.
And have a good week.